All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Noragami, Season 2, Episode 3. We got a good clarification after that absolutely amazing episode last week that Kuruha and Kuguha are indeed different people. They are different regalia, even though there are all the multiple names
for regalia. They literally have a letter difference between their names.
It's, oh boy, but we know that now. Yeah. So the eye patch, and the eye patch person was shown with the name of Kuruha.
Kuruha. for lion, you know.
Yeah, right.
And then Kugaha is the one that did the actual inspection for the blight that would potentially have been on any one of Bishamon's regalia.
He's the one giving the medicine to Bishamon and stuff.
And he is also the one in league with Nora.
Right.
So we have a situation now where Bishamon is in grave danger because of there being potentially now multiple regalia that could end up either blighting her in some ways or just causing the bonds of other regalia to start going a little bit. Bad.
But we also had a rather interesting thing happen power mechanics wise for this show.
Yeah.
Because our good buddy Kazuma was about to hold an ablution, but it didn't work because it couldn't happen because they couldn't find anybody with blight on them. And
then the blight on Bishamon disappeared.
But then came back later. So that's a problem. That is a big problem.
Very strange setup to have here.
Uh-huh.
There are some things with regards to the mechanics of this that we are probably not yet privy to. So the big thing is, what's the goal of Kugaha? Specifically here. We know that in some ways he's probably in disagreement primarily with the way Bishamon handles things with regards to regalia and how she saves them and brings them all into her family.
He wants her out of the picture.
And we'll probably find out why in the upcoming bit of the story. However, Nora being involved in general just means that there's some angle with which she's probably going after Yato here.
Yes.
And this relationship that was beginning to form with Suzuha and Yukine might have been the angle for that, given that they had Suzuha brutally murdered.
Torn apart by wolves.
To shreds.
Yep.
So that is how bad things could get on a larger scale if
they're not stopped.
Yeah, exactly. We are in a situation, though, where I would say things are moving a little bit better, though, with regards to Yukine and Yato.
Yes,
and Yato
that is true.
Is, I would say, doing a great job of handling things as directly as possible and has already encountered Kugaha.
Yep.
And
that's true.
Had a very unique kind of engagement. With
quick battle that was cut short.
Right, because Kugaha then ended up bringing phantoms with the mask into play, or at least one. And
but,
this is a thing.
But that might not necessarily lead back to, Bishamon at all, because there's no way that they would see all of Bishamon's regalia, probably ever, So,
Exactly. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Yo, this show is getting insanely intense really quickly for season 2.
So, Kugaha, you bastard. First off,
you are working some serious,
but this is going real well for
magic here. And I think that the way they're using a lot of the things that were established in season 1 here and bringing up their relevance in this way, as they have shown Kugaha whispering into the ear of Bishamon for a while. This is something that I believe really would work. And it is one of the things that was why I liked Kazuma so much in season 1, was that he was serving the god that hated Yato and wanted to kill him, and yet had this complex kind of view of Yato that wasn't shared by his master.
Right.
Basically leading towards him going to do the ablution, which was probably one of my favorite episodes in the show thus far.
Yeah.
So here we are. Kugaha's plan is working really well. They have Hiyori, Kazuma, a Hiyori spirit form as well.
Right.
Apprehended. And yeah, Yato's probably going to blame Bishamon.
Because of course, right?
And show up
after
with Yukine.
Yeah, because now the only potential thing though is that if Yukine filled him in on the whole idea of what happened with Kazuma,
right,
then he would know that Kazuma got exiled by Bishamon. So then why would Bishamon arrest him again?
No, that totally makes sense, if anything.
Oh, yeah?
It totally makes sense, yeah. Kazuma specifically wasn't shown. Yato didn't see Kazuma show up at this spot here.
Oh,
so
right.
he doesn't know that Kazuma was taken.
Yeah, right. Okay.
There's no connection that
Yep.
Kazuma has to this event.
Good stuff. Okay.
Yeah, because Kazuma basically probably went Sherlock for a second.
Yeah,
was
he's like, hold on.
I need to analyze this a little bit more.
Yeah, what were exactly the circumstances of the death? Things like that.
And he needs to talk with Yato about Suzuha, meaning that he probably wanted an unbiased perspective with regards to Yukine and Suzuha's interactions.
Yeah.
Because if he had talked with Yato, he would have found out that Kugaha did show up with a phantom at the tree, and this whole thing could have fallen apart really quickly.
Basically, the fact that these characters aren't talking to each other for very legitimate reasons, right, is what's causing this to happen. Because in an ideal situation, right, which this definitely is not, but in an ideal situation, with the whole idea of Suzuha's dead and Yukine shows up and it's like, what's wrong? You didn't care about him at all? He's dead. You know, like, no, him not even realizing he's dead, just being like, where's Suzuha? Where's Suzuha, right? That could be something where it alleviates at least that immediate concern of, you know, Yato killing Suzuha or something like that, right?
Well, not really.
Well, not necessarily.
It just means that Yukine wasn't involved.
Right, just that Yukine wasn't involved. But even if it wasn't a thing of, oh, Yato did it and not Yukine or something like that, there's still the issue that Kugaha basically did a misdirect by then, you know, but he added all that information of, you know, revealing that, Kazuma, he performed the ablution.
Yep. And Kazuma performing the ablution, but keeping it secret, I think would not have been a nail in the coffin for their relationship. Again, there hasn't been one yet. She did not forsake his name. That is a very good thing to remind us of. She was in a very intense situation and needed it to end for not only her own safety, but for all the Regalia's safety there.
Right.
So she did not cut things off, but what she is saying is basically, I'm done with you. If we're going to revisit this, it's going to be a long time from now after I've sorted out my house. But I can't have you being involved doing that
because it's causing trouble.
Because not only did he do this behind her back, but she made a judgment call that Yukine was going to die here, and he stopped her. He raised arms against his master, which
in front of everyone else.
Yeah, which is an ultimate no-go.
Yep.
If anything, if he wanted to be even more badass, he should have leapt in front of the bullet himself. That would have showcased doubly that he was willing to take the hit himself.
Yeah.
But also, it might have shocked her out of the idea of being like, he's doing this antagonistic against me, because she would have been able to be like, wait, you could have just borderlined. But I think the main reason why is because borderline is literally the only way he could guarantee that Yukine was going to survive this. And if he just jumped in front of it, it might have gone right through him and Yukine.
And he doesn't, you know, like, he doesn't need to, you know, he didn't need to do it there. So he didn't jump in the way.
Exactly.
It caused other complications, but, you know, there you go. Yeah. And the fact that Kugaha basically has had her ear, because one of the things that I really like about this as a way to basically excuse, or not excuse, but to understand Bishamon's behavior is that Bishamon is not perfect, right? She holds herself to a very high standard, but she has flaws. And in this situation, these kinds of judgment calls are made in the heat of the moment when there's things like, you know, Yukine making, like, one, an enemy, like the enemy regalia, essentially just showing up at your doorstep, brought seemingly by your second in command, and then they start saying all this stuff that causes this crazy, disturbance in your other regalia. You start feeling this backlash, which has got to be insane since there's so many of them. And then she's like, okay, I'm in battle mode, essentially. This needs to be resolved. And then, Kazuma steps in because he has to keep it from going there.
Right.
And then there you go.
And she basically put the whole thing on the line by saying, hey, I'm not going to instantly just start shooting here. Are the rumors true, Kazuma? Did you really do that?
Yep.
Because she knew that this had been passed on to her a while ago, but she didn't act on it because she trusts Kazuma so much. Yep. But now the things are starting to stack up, and she's like, oh, now I'm just seeing this happen right in front of me.
Right. And
you are clearly going behind my back and doing things. Yes, you are.
Yep.
But what Kazuma doesn't necessarily have the heart to tell her is how much he needs to do that because she is not capable of doing everything herself. She needs these people to be able to have that kind of autonomy.
She's got a very specific worldview, essentially, that is required for her in order for her to function in the way that she does, but there's some problems as a result of that
she's not seeing.
She's not seeing, right? Because when the whole thing was brought up of him doing the ablution, it wasn't that's preposterous. Or it was that's preposterous rather than, because that is trust, but that's a particular kind of trust.
Yeah.
That's basically the thing of I will ignore the facts, the potential facts, rather than I will see if the facts are all that there is, right? If there's something else I wouldn't know about them, and that's why this thing that sounds really bad isn't, because there must be a good explanation, right?
Yeah,
her thing was just a rejection of the fact that could be true, rather than seeking to understand.
Yep.
So
which she could have done if she
right, because all she had to do,
if she wanted to,
all she had to do there was say why.
Yeah, Kazuma, I'm demanding an audience, one-on-one.
You are, well, sure, or even
no. Like I think she trusts him enough to where it would be a thing of like, no, I want you to talk to me as if we're peers, not master and servant. So you are free to talk. But I need an explanation, because if I don't like your explanation, we are potentially done.
Right. And if that had been done, and if that had been brought up, if she had in some cases the I'm not
the
sure.
Desire.
The desire.
I think it's
to
just
bring
it
up beforehand, like when she first heard about it, then that could have probably happened. But in this situation, it's in the heat of the moment, all this stuff is happening, and it doesn't end up working out. It's a similar thing to Yato not telling Yukine immediately, your friend got murdered.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that would have solved a lot of that situation. Because then, if you want to tell him that you need to stay away from the tree, it's, your friend was murdered there. That's not a safe place to hang out. Right?
Yeah.
Then
he would still go there.
He would still go there, but then maybe, hopefully, Yato could go there too. But then, of course, he was probably wanting it to be something where he wouldn't get seen there or whatever with, at that location.
Yeah.
But,
In that respect, one of the things that is always good to see within the context of miscommunication drama is there any one conversation that solves it all? No, there never could be in this story here. There are too many little conversations that aren't happening, and they're all based around where the character's flaws and personalities tend towards. Thus, the manipulation happening with Kugaha actually expounds upon that.
Right. It makes sense.
Well, not only it makes sense, it's something that fits in to the narrative because it amplifies the effect of all the little conversations not happening.
Yeah.
Making them not more than what they are, just taking an opportunistic advantage of the fact that these conversations aren't happening.
Bringing them into the light, basically. Because, it's not just that it makes sense that
Kugaha would do that.
That Kugaha would do it, or that it would work this way, but it's also something where it's highlighting the flaws of the characters, right? Because Bishamon reacts in this way, Kazuma reacts in this other way, right? The fact that everyone started freaking out once Yukine started saying this because it was true. Because it was true, because that's what they'd been doing this whole time. Kazuma knew it, everybody knew it, except for Bishamon, and then, the shock of that, basically, and all the stuff that was happening as a result, helped influence things to go a particular way.
Yeah. This is a really cool kind of study of what happens when there's a disconnect between a group of people and the one that is basically their kind of representative in that respect. It's kind of the equivalent of a political system where you have an unelected official that basically is bringing in a bunch of people into their system, but is not actually a representation of the hopes, wills, desires, and all that of the people that they're supposed to represent, because it is, in some ways, a flawed system. It is not a family, strictly. It is more of a master, servant, then servants, you know, relationship. And then there's even a hierarchy involved with regards to how they get picked, so it leads to things that are natural for this here. And Aiha is just a great example of where you can push the needle in a little bit more. And then just as long as you leave that in there, that hole's going to get infected and it's going to just cause all kinds of problems.
I can't imagine what that would be like to, you know, serve someone for 50 years like that and then just get replaced. That'd be horrible. And in this...
And what's your purpose after that?
What's your purpose? And this is why there's a part of me that really liked Yukine's confrontation there. Because this hasn't been a family, right? It, you know, we see Yato and you know, and Kuro and everybody, right? And that
everyone's family is flawed,
right?
But
Everyone's family,
at least,
exactly, and that's kind of how you know it's a family,
right?
Because if you're looking, you know, let's say you're looking, this is more like a company or something like that, and maybe a, you know, one of those small, you know, only a couple hundred people or something kind of deal, so it can maybe be a bit closer, but
it's still pretending like it's more of a family than it really is in its execution.
Yeah, everyone is basically serving a function, and that it's effective. They're able to do a lot of good as a result of it, but there are certain things that aren't being addressed. So what I'm hoping as the eventual, and there will be all kinds of conflict that will need to be worked through to get to this point, but for the eventual super cathartic resolution of this conflict is that by this being brought into the light, it can actually get more into being a family, because families are messy, right? And by allowing things to be messy and knowing that each other can handle it, something that also Yato kind of didn't do with Yukine, sort of. And that's just showing that, you know, they can still grow and work on things and everything. That's showing that there is a potential better way of doing things, and then all this conflict can hopefully, at the end of everything, have been worth it, kind of, even though Suzuha died and all of that stuff.
Exactly.
Something good can come from it.
Yeah, but it does need to be deconstructed quite a bit before it can be rebuilt into something healthy. And I would say, at this point, I think it's going to fall apart. I don't think it's going to actually be rebuilt back together. I think the point of this specifically is that Bishamon's story of built upon past pain is one that it's going to be the end of her, if that's the way she's going to
if she doesn't, she's so stubborn that if she doesn't eventually bend and basically
she will get brittle,
then she will break.
And I think that that's important. I think that one of the things that this show is giving us is that people can break and still live on. It is okay to break down. That's what Yukine had. That's literally what Yukine had. Yukine was the perfect example in season 1 of a small scale problem like this. He was stuck in the past, unable to accept the fact that he had died. He ended up causing problems for the people that he cared about. They are flawed people as well, so they don't know how to perfectly handle his problems. And ultimately, while it is in some ways Yato's responsibility to care for him a little bit as a regalia, it is more his responsibility just to keep himself, you know, healthy so that he can be that one to UK. But because of the cyclical nature of their feedback,
bad compatibility at the beginning, basically,
that led to a lot of Yukine's problems becoming Yato's problems, and thus, if it wasn't for these specific regalia like Kazuma, that whole thing would have been sundered and it would have been a huge problem. And we don't know how bad it could have gotten with regards to Yukine's strength or threat as a phantom. Like, they might have needed the full Bishamon squad to actually take him down. We don't know how devastating a regalia, especially one that they've hinted at with Yukine being one of the potentially strongest regalia out there, like what kind of a phantom he would have been.
And even if they defeated him, that wouldn't be a victory.
No,
that would be a not as bad loss. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So you know, I'm really excited to see how this goes. And with Kugaha,
oh, his glee.
His glee was something else. Like,
right.
And I really enjoy it because Nora as a character, right, is our main antagonistic force up till this point, right?
Yep.
So to introduce Kugaha as this new other antagonistic force.
Yeah, not really towards Yato.
Not really towards Yato, but towards another character. And like, I like the idea of them teaming up, but it's also something where, because of the narrative pattern sort of new season, new antagonist, how do we make it so that he really feels like a serious threat, not just someone that's sort of like a padding before we get to Nora again, right?
Yeah.
You know? And the way that he's so absolutely sold to us of just, when he hears...
this works out.
When this works out, like, he is just...
He's animated.
Oh, he is animated. Like, the fact that his word was pleasure that Nora gave him, I think that's so interesting. Because I would not have pegged him as that kind of character from the beginning. Maybe ambition or you know, or something like that. I don't know. We're not entirely sure why he wants to take down Bishamon, but... But pleasure... pleasure. You see that on his face. Like when he senses like Bishamon like calling like the names of one of her regalia, he just like his like, eyes and his like and it's so contrasted with his just flat neutral, just expressionless kind of like yes, I'm not going to let anything slip through my expressions that I'm behind all this. You know?
Yeah, there might be something just plain malevolent going on here. But I got a vibe, because you brought that up as like, oh, that's a characterization little hint there, you know, little meta thing to drop. What if he does have some kind of pleasure
Mm-hmm.
motivation on this, and he is straight up like
dark obsession kind of a thing?
Bishamon.
Like, I could, because he is removing the the second in command, the person that's closest to her.
Right. It almost feels like he's the kind of person who's not got some kind of ambitious prospects. All he is basically seeing that, this is actually a system that will be the end and the ruin of Bishamon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save her from it, because I don't want her to be, you know, spent and ruined by this. I want to be with her. I want to.
I could see that.
Yeah, like he, you know, sees her bathing, right? He's just casually just lusting like crazy, and he's like, be neutral, conceal, don't feel.
Right. Well, and also the idea of the fact that he's giving her the medicine and everything like that. There could be this other thing of like, I am the one that basically helps sustain her. I am the one that cares for her and all that stuff. And then there's this other person, you know, Kazuma, that's just sort of in the way, right?
Sure.
Because there's this weird sense of dependency that she has on Kugaha in a similar but different way to Kazuma, right? Because she's dependent on her regalia.
Well, she's dependent on all of them. That's
not all of them, you know.
No. But I meant the squad. The idea that she's basically in this situation successfully only because she's able to rely on a good number of them to help out with a lot of things.
Right.
And that's why she doesn't question a lot of the things that they say and do at times, because she doesn't have that luxury. It's
she can't afford to think about that. That's why she has them here, so that she doesn't have to. Right.
Yeah. She's so focused on keeping herself healthy so that she can manage the probable hundreds of regalia that she's taking care of.
Yeah, I mean, that, like, you know, we saw those overhead shots. That's an estate.
That is a whole business.
So
there's that. Also, every time Nora is brought into a scene, the show reminds us how good it is at its presentation and its execution on just getting a feel going. So they have the sound, the bells, and they have the water drop, and then she's just there. And that feeling that I get when Nora shows up is boogeyman straight up horror vibes.
Oh, yeah.
I get chills. Yep. I get like shoulder pain. I get like
hair standing up on
I'm like,
on end.
Oh the god, this is this is freaky. You see that
like really creepy looking doll that's just all of a sudden there.
Right.
It wasn't before.
Yeah.
Except now it's talking to you.
Yeah. It's like, hey, this is gonna be.
You shouldn't have left me.
You really
I'm
shouldn't
right
have.
here.
God, it's freaky.
Like,
Oh, it's so. Ugh.
But I love
Nasty.
it because that is incredibly entertaining. That is incredibly, like, it captivates your attention because, okay, Nora's here. What the hell is going to happen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about the spiders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If anything, I think the spiders showing up because it didn't really move much. It was just like, it's fine.
And we got to see them get stomped on in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't really have it be a problem until they got smaller and then they started skittering and then I was like, oh,
Right.
lovely.
Yeah.
Ugh.
One of the things I'm curious about, and now we saw Kazuma do his whole binding thing earlier when he talked with Hiyori, I believe it was. And he also he bound her and then
Well, he made her invisible.
Yeah, he
too.
bound her and made her invisible. Okay, right, that's what it was. But she was still able to perceive. So
there's all kinds of spells though.
No, right. But I believe that was the binding was the same kind of thing that he used on Aiha, right?
Yeah.
The fact that Aiha was still then conscious.
Well, that's because I mean,
would she be able to? Because currently, Kugaha is worm-tonguing this whole thing, right?
okay. What's your theory here? I'm confused.
That the biggest issue is that people don't realize that what he's doing is malicious. This isn't a game of Among Us where there's an imposter. It's just, that all this stuff is happening and it's, oh God, we have to deal with all these situations that are being created, right?
So how do you know Aiha is... So what does it have to do with Aiha? I'm so confused.
What I'm hoping can happen as maybe potentially her character redemption, arc resolution, whatever, is that she can realize that she doesn't actually want to be doing the stuff that she's doing, that it's not helping her situation, and then maybe she can get a heart-to-heart confrontation with Bishamon, and then also if she has been connected with Kugaha, there will hopefully come a point where she decides that she wants to split from Kugaha. If he'll let her do that, who knows? But if she was conscious when she saw all this stuff happen, Kugaha was revealing his true colors to Kazuma because he was going to capture him and everything. So that might be information that she could then use that might help her sway which side, like what she's going to choose, and or potentially inform Bishamon of what's really going on if she does end up turning against Kugaha.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if that's actually anything's going to go with that. She hasn't gotten too much screen time as a character, so she certainly doesn't have to get a happy ending, right? But if they wanted to do that, that could be a way for the information to get back to Bishamon from a trusted source. Because now
it's not a trusted source. She's just a random regalia.
Well, she's a regalia that served her for 50 years. If she came up and said, what I saw between Kugaha and Kazuma, you should... it's pretty sus. You'll want to hear about this, right?
Right.
And oh my God, Kugaha was convincing me to do all these things like using a hexed weapon and stuff like that. That apparently regalia, it's very bad for them to do.
Right.
That's info that could be used so that Bishamon could be clued into the fact that there's more going on.
Yeah, I do think that Aiha has potential in that regard, but I think it's not based on her seeing Kugaha as necessarily right now doing anything bad, but more of the fact that her only goal is to be noticed by Bishamon. And if this doesn't lead to that, and it's just something where she's ending up getting used, why wouldn't he just kill her?
Right, and she was definitely used as bait year, so I think there's a very strong possibility that does happen.
Yeah, she might just be dead after this.
Oh, sure, yeah,
depending on
and then he could blame it on Kazuma or whoever he wants to, or Yato or
whoever. Yeah, I feel like Aiha is too single-minded at this point.
Sure, yeah, we haven't seen enough of her as a character to have any reason to believe that she would necessarily have a change of heart or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Also, there seems to be this other aspect of this, which is that the other regalia just don't talk to Bishamon. That's the whole thing, is why I don't think she's necessarily a trusted source, is that the other regalia just don't bring up problems to her.
Yes.
They bring it up to the next regalia in the system, which right now is going to be Kugaha.
Right, and that's right, but that's that's why I think that there could potentially be a thing of that happening, is because if it's her and she's sus of Kugaha, then she might, skip the chain of command or whatever. And hopefully, Bishamon will have, by having seen this whole confrontation with Yukine happen, she will realize that the sort of confirmation bias truth of trusting all her other regalia, that if there was something wrong, they would tell her, and that they actually haven't been, will maybe make her more open to if other regalia come up and have something to say to her about the situation at hand. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe that's too optimistic.
I don't have that kind of optimism. I think that Bishamon is a very smart person, but I think when you're unhealthy in your physical body, like that's literally her problem right now, is that's leading towards issues with regards to how she handles things on the psychological, mental, and emotional levels.
Yep.
That leads to those problems spilling out into the people around you.
Hence
and those people
why,
around her not really being helpful in those areas because they can't be. She's the only one that can solve her problem here with this regard, which is how you handle things with the regalia.
And we saw how that happened so far with her interaction with Kazuma.
Exactly.
So,
So I feel like if IHOP tries to do anything like that, she's going to die. She's just going to get offed.
By Kugaha?
Oh, yeah. Like, definitely.
Yeah, he would definitely do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just whether he would literally be the one
successful.
Right. The idea, though, that she needed a weapon in order to be a problem for Kazuma, for Yato, is just more of a thing of where she's not really that much of a threat to Kugaha's plans. Like, he needs to equip her with something that he probably got from Nora or something like that. Yep. And that's more of the thing of where it could get interesting, is that I feel like if she starts to suspect the whole Phantom angle as being something that is a bigger deal than it is, she's going to be like, wait, like, what do you want here? And if she confronts him instead of confronting Bishamon, then she'll just die.
Yeah. One of the things I also realized they brought up this episode we haven't gone over yet is the fact that Kazuma's binding didn't work on Kugaha
because he had the thing around his ankle. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a bell thing around his ankle that they focused on when his name wasn't working there. So, something that he got from Nora, again, is interfering with that kind of stuff there as well.
Because I had the feeling that it was something that they were basically setting up something where he had actually severed his ties of his own accord or whatever with Bishamon, and Bishamon just hadn't even realized it.
Well, yeah, that's probably what the thing around his ankle does.
Right.
Is that it just creates basically a separation between the two of them there, so the feelings and the...
Well, the name has no effect.
Well, right. But the whole point of the regalia god connection there is that the god can then sense what the regalia is feeling and going through. But if he has literal murderous intent, and all that kind of stuff,
how in the hell
how is he hiding that?
And there's the answer.
And there's a potential answer right there, mechanics-wise. In addition to the fact that he is also very focused at times from being like, don't show any emotion. Be as
nothing can be sensed, but my face could still be red. So dead eyes, Right.
And I'm guessing also there's another problem where Bishamon just can't sense everything going on with her regalia at any given time, because one of them just died,
and she got a bad dream.
She just got a bad dream.
Right. She didn't. Yeah.
Now I believe that is just because the connection was old. It hadn't been refreshed, but Kugaha's is probably a little bit more present.
Also, she could potentially, now I don't know if how well this would work or anything, but I get the feeling that one of the reasons that Kugaha wanted her to cut off Kazuma, not just for the finality of it, but also would be so that whatever would be happening with Kazuma, she wouldn't get feedback of, right? Because that's one of the other things that's really tough. She did this in the heat of the moment of exiling him, right?
Right.
But she would be getting feedback and stuff. If she is really getting a clean slate, the psychopath is clear, right? Either something is messed up in the system, or he is not actually wanting to do her harm or anything like that, in which case maybe you should talk. Now, it might be something where pride and all of that stuff keeps her from doing it because what's done has been done, kind of thing.
Like, well, he didn't lie. He kept the ablution thing from her.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the big one.
Yeah. So we'll have to see how this goes, but it's all spiraling out of control.
Yeah, and it's really good. And
it's so good.
And now Yato and Yukine are gonna have to make a decision here.
If they go on the warpath, that's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be awesome.
Well,
but
it's gonna be the investigative path first. 'Cause they don't know necessarily anything yet. She could be acting on her own accord. He probably already knows the whole thing of her, you know, like tons of regalia and everything like that. So that's its own thing as well. And I also think that Yato, we sometimes don't give him enough credit intelligence-wise. What's going on here? Like the fact that he went to the tree and kind of you know, had a little bit of a look around there and then ended up encountering Kugaha that early.
Right, and pieced it together that quickly.
Right, exactly. Kind of showcases that Yato's an old god. He's been around for a while.
Oh my god.
This could get really, really interesting.
And literally, if Yato was there, well, okay, no, if Yato was there, all kinds of things would have been, because there's no way Bishamon will trust anything he says, but then Yato could at least figure out that, oh, that regalia was one of Bishamon's regalia that did it, because he doesn't know who Kugaha was, you know, at this point.
No.
So.
And he didn't encounter Kugaha here as well either. He only saw Aiha. So
right. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. Wonderful. But y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and you can also talk with us about our Twitch channel. Whoops.
Indeed,
there you
yes. We stream Monday through Friday, so every weekday, 3 p.m. Pacific time for all our streams. Monday is podcast. Tuesday is One Piece dramatic manga readings. Wednesday and Friday, you do gaming.
Yep, I'm playing Hades right now.
And then Thursday, I'm playing Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.